Hello gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. As you just saw, my entire computer blew up whilst trying to just play Minecraft. Yeah, that's just how weak my computer is. And I've got no money to buy a new computer. But hang on a second, there's some money. Well, at least I'm not that broke. With this money, I certainly can't buy a new computer, but I definitely can buy Lossless Scaling. A quick introduction for those who don't know what Lossless Scaling is. Lossless Scaling is a powerful app available on Steam that is designed to significantly enhance your gaming experience by boosting performance. This is especially beneficial for users with this, and even this. Oh yep. By optimizing the way games are rendered and displayed, Lossless Scaling can help you achieve smoother gameplay and better visual quality without the need of expensive hardware upgrades. Whether or not you're looking to extend the life of an aging computer or simply want to get the most out of your current setup, Lossless Scaling has got your back. So in this video, we'll be looking through everything that you need to know about Lossless Scaling and how to use all of its features the right way. Before we get started, here are some important notes that you should take into account whilst using Lossless Scaling. Your game window must be in windowed or window borderless in order for Lossless Scaling to work properly. It doesn't work in exclusive full screen mode because the game bypasses all processes and renders directly to the screen. This makes it impossible for Lossless Scaling to capture or display frames, as the game takes priority over everything, including Windows itself. If you want to start scaling without having to go to the Lossless Scaling window, you can go to Settings to change the Scale hotkey to whatever you want. This is also the same for Upscaling. There is a spreading misconception about Lossless Scaling whereby there are best settings for the software. This is not true, and every output result can vary depending on game, device specifications, and input resolutions. So, to get started, we'll be taking a look at Lossless Scaling settings, preferably these ones on the right. Lossless Scaling comes packed with many options that you can tinker around with, although it's best to leave everything in its defaults as there are some settings that will benefit you depending on your specifications and preferences. For instance, you can check the allow tearing option to decrease latency to its minimum, whilst introducing screen tears even though the game is being scaled under your refresh rate. If you're on a HDR supported display, consider checking out the HDR Support option located in between the chasing support and the max frame latency option. Keep in mind though that your VRAM usage may increase whilst using this option, so it's best to keep an eye out for that. By the time I'm writing the script on the 11th of August, Lossless Scaling has officially announced the 2.11 beta and has introduced G-Sync support on supported displays. G-Sync is Nvidia's alternative to V-Sync and works by dynamically adjusting your display's refresh rate to match the frame rate being output by the GPU. For example, when the GPU outputs 40 FPS, the display will also refresh at 40 Hz. This is done to eliminate screen tearing caused by the GPU waiting for the monitor's refresh cycle, as well as stuttering and reducing input lag, providing a more smooth and responsive gaming experience. Capture API is a very important feature and is one of the main reasons why Lossless Scaling works. As the name suggests, it captures every frame the game outputs and sends it to Lossless Scaling to be processed through. Different capture methods may benefit you. So let's break it down. DXGI is Lossless Scaling's default capture method and is recommended as variable frame rates are supported with this mode. This feature mostly benefits frame generation and allows for dynamically adjusting interpolation based on today's game. WGC is an older alternative to DXGI and does not dynamically adjust the interpolation based on the in-game frame rate. However, it does benefit in cases where performance is limited and has a reduced latency over DXGI. And finally, we have GDI, which is an alternative to WGC for older Windows versions and does not introduce any unique features nor benefits over WGC. This should only be used if your Windows version does not support any other capture methods. Now, if we scroll up a bit, we find the cursor options. Although it's best to keep them at their defaults, there may be some certain cases where you prefer to use some of these options. Like for example, hide cursor hides your cursor. That part's pretty self-explanatory, and scale cursor scales your cursor depending on the scale factor. The click cursor option prevents your cursor from leaving the game window. The adjust cursor speed adjusts your cursor speed according to the scale factor. If this isn't enabled, your mouse may be too sensitive as the scale factor increases. On top of that, you can also choose your preferred GPU to utilize Lossless Scaling on. This feature can prove very beneficial for devices that have more than one GPU, such as modern day gaming laptops. You can also change your output display and can be beneficial to devices that have more than one display. In cases where you do have a second display and want to multitask on it without interruptions, you can scroll down and enable the multi-display mode option that allows you to switch between windows without Lossless Scaling having to automatically unscale itself, making it possible to use another display while scaling. Moving on, let's talk about upscaling and Lossless Scaling. Lossless Scaling introduces many different upscalers to suit your gaming needs, ranging from your average 2D pixel Nintendo DS game all the way to 3D high-end computer exploding games.
What the?
Upscaling in lossless scaling is done by lowering the base or game window resolution and upscaling through lossless scaling. This can help improve performance as there aren't many pixels for the game to render compared to when it's in its full native resolution. For instance, if you're playing a 2D pixel sprite game, try going for XPR, and if you're watching cartoons or anime, use Anime 4K. For modern day 3D games, I highly recommend using AMD FSR or LS1. Whilst different upscalers offer varying results, let's go into some detail on what these upscalers do.
XPR is a pixel art scaling algorithm that works through identifying patterns such as edges and lines in pixel data and scales those patterns in a way that maintains their appearance in higher resolutions. It's vastly used in retro gaming to make games look smoother, while Anime 4K is an open source real-time upscaling algorithm specially designed to enhance the quality and resolution of 2D anime while still maintaining its original clarity and detail. AMD FSR, or AMD Fidelity FX Super Resolution, is an image upscaling technology developed by AMD to enhance gaming performance by rendering images at lower resolutions and upscaling them to a higher resolution, similar to what Lossless Scaling does.
LS1 is a proprietary scaling algorithm designed by Lossless Scaling's developer, THS, that focuses on maintaining image sharpness and clarity. It is based on machine learning and is optimized for general use. Keep in mind that you may also adjust the sharpness of the 3D upscalers to fit your experiences or choose to pick up more performant, less demanding version of the upscaler. As of now, only AMD FSR and LS1 have performance or optimized variants. There are two scaling options. We have the scaling mode and the scaling type. The scaling type simply allows you to select what upscaler you prefer to use, whilst the scaling mode features two options, auto and custom. Auto scaling allows for automatic game upscaling by determining the base window resolution, then calculating and enlarging by its appropriate scale factors based on the display's native resolution. Scale factors is a way to determine how much lossless scaling should upscale the window to. For instance, the custom scaling mode allows for custom scaling factors, and the higher the scale factor value, the lower the base resolution and the more lossless scaling has to upscale to fit the native resolution. Keep in mind that it is essential to have Resize before scaling enabled just in case your window isn't in the right aspect ratio and size for your chosen scale factor. Here are some custom scale factor values in case you are confused on where to start. Keep in mind that your gaming experience may vary between scale factors, and it's highly recommended to just tinker around with the settings until you find the ones that you are most comfortable and happy with.
Alright, it's time, boys.
Ah yeah, this is so fun. How I wish it was a bit more smoother though. Okay, I get it. You skipped through half the video just to get here. That's completely fine. Lossless scaling is most widely known for its ability to generate fake frames, similar to that of the advanced DLSS 3 and AMD FSR 3 upscaling technologies. A lot of things happen in the few moments it takes for these models to generate fake frames, so let's break it down. The device first renders the first two frames, with the first frame being displayed and the second being held back from being displayed until the generated artificial frames are calculated via motion vectors generated and are displayed first. This is mainly the reason as to why frame generation usually comes with latency ranging from 5 to 8 ms all the way to over 40 milliseconds in severe cases. During this process, there is also a motion estimation model that compares the two real frames to compute motion to act as information that would be usually provided by the game. This is also known as the optical flow field, with the arrows giving us two key pieces of information, direction and velocity, with the direction being the direction that the arrow is pointing towards, and the velocity being the length of the arrow. The longer the arrow, the quicker the motion, and the shorter the arrow, the slower the motion. There are different models of LSFG, with the most recent being LSFG 2.3 at the time I'm recording this video. It's absolutely recommended to use the most recent model, as it may include patches to improve stability, performance, and reduce the frequency of ghosting. Right under that, we have the frame generation mode. Currently, there are only ×2, ×3, and ×4 modes available. They represent the amount of intermediate or artificial frames generated every 2 frames by the neural network to be fit in the frame sequence. X2 generating 1 intermediate frame to double your frame rate, X3 generating 2 intermediate frames to triple your frame rate, and finally X4 generating 3 intermediate frames to quadruple your frame rate. The minimum advised base frame rate for LSFG to generate frames on is 30 FPS, with the recommended being at least 60 FPS. If you have a display with a high refresh rate, 90Hz to 120Hz for example, you may want to try out the X2 or X3 mode. If you have a display with a very high refresh rate, 144Hz to 180Hz and above, you may want to try to use the X4 mode. Keep in mind that the X4 mode is very new and still experimental, and may come with some minor to mild artifacting depending on your base frame rate. You can also use a less demanding version or the more lightweight version of LSFG located below these modes at the cost of a fairly noticeable amount of artifacting, often on the edges of objects, edges of the display, and when there is fast movement in the camera or object. If your mode is generating too many extra frames, you may counter that by going into the rendering tab and changing the sync mode to VSync, which given its name will limit the maximum frame rate that could be generated by LSFG to your refresh rate. Even though your hardware may be what is limiting you from reaching the neural network's full potential, recent updates have introduced a way to counter this. Below the sync mode option is the max frame latency option. As its name suggests, this allows you to tweak the amount of latency provided by LSFG. This can also be used to improve performance in cases where frames are taking too long to render at the cost of latency. The widely optimal and recommended setting is 1 for Nvidia GPUs and 3 for AMD GPUs. However, it's best you tweak around with the value until you find what suits you best. You can also use the UI detection feature located in the config of your app's installation folder to decrease the frequency of the UI being smudged with actual gameplay during frame generation. And with that, gentlemen, marks the end of everything that you need to know about lossless scaling. I know the video got a bit boring, I'm sorry for that. I went through some really stressful stuff that impacted the pace and the amount of time I had to make this video, and I'm really sorry for that. But I'm planning to make more videos in this form, so if you'd like to see more coverages on other types of software, please do let me know by hitting me up on my Discord over here, or you can let me know down in the comments below. Are they down there? I don't know, man. And scene. Oh my god, I can't believe that took so long. Let me just stop recording real quick and just go to tab. Go back to lossless scaling. Oh, let's just unscale real quick. I mean, come on, what's the worst thing that could happen? Now I can set my microphone aside and... What's that sound? Why is it coming from my computer? What's the... No, we can't keep doing this. You can't keep getting away with this. No, don't. Please. Please. No!